Hello and welcome to tonight's video where we go over patch 14.17 and how it will affect the teams still eligible for Worlds 2024. I say it that way because at the time of doing this video, the LCK regional finals have not taken place, and neither has the Brazilian finals for CBLOL. So both CBLOL teams are listed on here, Pain and Vivo Keed Stars, as well as Fear X, D plus Kia, KT, T1, HLE, Gen G for the LCK. On here we have top jungle mid. In blue indicates a champion was buffed. In my opinion, well, not actually, actually, there's no opinion. Well, actually, in my opinion, it's best to try and approach this very broadly for the layman that watches LOL Esports. It doesn't get into the nitty gritty of things. Personally, I think that's a better way to look at it than really getting into the numbers of whether a champ is buffed or nerfed. Right now, we're just looking at what were the goals of the patch. If it's listed as a buff, champions in blue. If it's listed in red, it's considered a nerf. And we go from there and then compare champion pools for given players relative to what's been buffed and nerfed. So, in top lane, Twisted Fate was buffed. Twisted Fate became a top lane pick this past season, as well as traditionally a mid lane pick. Now, to be considered a buff for a player has to play in 4%, so 1 out of every 25 games, from Season 12 to present. In the case of Twisted Fate, at the Tier 1 level, Mirwin played it 11% of the time, 8 times in 75 games this season. Nanu for Viking Esports of Vietnam, 7%, 3 times in 43 games. And Ozzy of PSG Talent, 6% of games, 10 out of 167. Now, as far as nerfs are concerned, we have Kennen and Rumble here. Kennen, if you qualified for a nerf, it was because you played at 8% of games this past split. The goal of a nerf is to get it out of the meta, or at least become less prominent of a pick. So Kennen, Evie picked it 24% of the time for SoftBank Hawks Gaming of Japan. 10 in 42 games. Bin, 22%, 11 of 45 for BLG. Clear, 16% for Fear X, 7 of 45. Zeus, 15%, 10 of 65. Other notables, Breathe of Weibo, 12%, 8 times 65 games. Broken Blade, 5 and 51. Keen, 4 and 47. Oscarinen, 3 times in 36 games. And Doran, 4 times in 48 games. All 8% or higher. Rumble, the leader, was Wiser of Pain Gaming. He plays at 20% of the games this summer. 5 times in 25. We have Doran, 17%. Impact, 17%. Ozzy Perfect of KT, 13%. Zika, 13% for LNG. Kingen, 13%. Kiea, 10%. Gigo, Vivo Keed Stars, 10%. So those players, Kennen and Rumble have been nerfed. Are they going to be as prominent of a pick at Worlds? We'll see. Do all these players make it? Not necessarily, but I think, I've said the majority of them are. We have 3 of these teams are going home. Jungle, a couple buffs, but nothing that got over the hump of 4% of games played the last couple seasons here. So if you want to say to yourself, because you skipped around this fucking video some sort of, don't even bother sticking around if you are just randomly clicking on this part. But if it's not 4%, they're not on the board. So Brand, Adi of Rainbow 7, 35% of the games he played this season, we're on Brand. That's 11 and 32. Decimus of Vivo Keed Stars, 23% of games. 7 and 31. Tarzan of Weibo, 20% of his games. 13 times in summer and playoffs. Yike, 10 times. Carrick of Pain Gaming, 16%, 4 times. Razork, 14%, 5 times. Forrest of SoftBank Hawks Gaming, 12%, played it 5 times. Tian, 11%. Way, 11%. Levi River, both 10. Now, Lilia, Levi of Gam Esports, played it the most. 21% of his games. 8 times he played Lilia. gen.g of PSG, 6 times, 19%. Inspired, 6 times, 18%. Way and River, both 16%. TN 15. Tarzan should have been in yellow here at 12%. Way 11. Owner of T1. Lucid of D plus Kia. And Canyon of gen.g all at 9%. So we see a lot of the top teams keying in on Lilia. Lilia being nerfed. Is she nerfed out of the meta? We will see. Mid lane, a buff to Lissandra, which actually is then nerfed on 14-18. That video will come out tomorrow. And whether it's a washout, I'm going to look a little closer at the Lissandra thing specifically. Like I said, I don't want to do that, but because it was affected in both patches, I do want to see if it comes out as a buff or a nerf. But Lissandra has been played by Xiaohu and Keen at least 4% of their games the last 2.5 years. Xiaohu, 5%, 18 times, 389 games. And Keen of Rainbow 7, 4%, 5 times in 118 games. Rise was buffed. There are a few players that have played enough Rise to be on the board. Katie of Viking Esports, 6% of his games, so 17 times in 278 games he played Rise. BDD of KT, 5%, 15 times. Scout, 5%, 16 times. Showmaker, 14%, 14 times. Dasher of SoftBank Hawks Gaming, 4%, 9 times he played it. Twisted Fate, buffed for BDD and Showmaker. Both have played quite a bit. BDD, 14 times in the last 2.5 years. And Showmaker, 14 times the last 2.5 years as well. Well, 3 years, essentially. Now, the nerf to mid lane that affects champion pools is LeBlanc. Showmaker, now you're going to say, I haven't seen a lot of LeBlanc. Well, Showmaker and Keen both played quite a bit of LeBlanc this summer. And it's been nerfed. So Showmaker played it 7 times in 56 games this summer, which is by far the most at 13%. And then Keen of Rainbow 7, 9%, 3 times he played it. So that is something to think about. And cumulatively, on the other board, we're going over bot lane, the bot lane duos. You're going to find that actually no team comes out of this patch positively when it comes to champion pool, comparisons to the patch. Where if you look at the last, several patch videos I've done, there are teams that come out positively. This one, 14-17, it was not the case. A handful come out net zero, but everyone else is negative. So now onto the bot lane duo. Okay, now for the bot lane pair here. I did simplify things because I thought, why the hell would I write Varus for everybody and Ezreal? So we're going to, I summed it up pretty easily, and it actually, I think, is more impactful the way I did it. So, Caitlyn. Only 3 players play a lot of Caitlyn. Gumayushi, heavily banned against him and T1. 5% of his games played, 22 times was he able to pull it out. That is a champion that is nerfed against him quite a bit. Deft of KT Roaster, 4% of his games, 14 picks. And Cheaton of Pain Gaming and CB Lol played it 8 times, 4% of his games. Now, Varus also buffed on 14-17. However, everybody plays it, so it's no different. Some people have played it 22% of their games. I think Masu led the way. But there's only one player that hasn't played it at least 4% of his games the last 2.5 years, and it is Marble of SoftBank Hawks Gaming in Japan, just under 4%, which is definitely something interesting, right? There's just one player that doesn't play a lot of Varus. Ashe was nerfed. Hansama played at 27% of his games for G2 this summer, 14 picks. Masu, 8 picks, 24%. Cheaton, 5 times, 20%. Light, 11 times, 17%. Marble, 7 picks, 17%. Betty, 5 picks, 16. Henna, 7, 16. Smiley, Vivo Keatstar. Smiley, a European import actually. 4 times in 31 games. Deft, 6 times in 48. Viper, 6 times in 48. Elk, 6 and 49. Jackie Love, 6 and 54. Supa, 3 and 30. A lot of heavy hitters on the Ashe nerf list here. I mean, hell, look, Viper, Elk, Jackie Love, that's 3 of the top 580 carries in the world just right there listed. Now, Ezreal, everybody is nerfed but 4 players. So, Guma of T1 didn't play a lot of Ezreal this summer. Neither did Hansama, Hannah, or Tomo of 100 Thieves. Senna nerfs. Pays of Gen G played at 15% of games 7 times. Jackie Love 13% 7 times. CEO of Rainbow 7 of Latin America 13% 4 picks. Guma 11% 7 picks. Gala 11% 5 picks. Elk 10% 5 picks. Betty 3 picks. And Masu 3 picks. So those guys are the ones that played a bit of Senna this summer. Where it's not, I don't put a champion on the board if nobody is affected by it, because then it's considered, okay, nobody is really benefiting or hurt by this. But in a case like, you look at Senna, you say, well, everybody can play Senna, everybody can, but these players were relying on it more than others. Support role, we just have 2 players that were affected by the nerfs. Senna nerf affected BA of Viking Esports. He played at 14% of the games in summer, 6 times in 43. Shogun actually is not a big Senna guy. So this is a thing to think about for me going forward. Seraphine, Barrel of KT Roaster played Seraphine 4 times this summer, which is 8% of his games, which meets the threshold, and nobody else did. So the support nerfs on 14-17 not as impactful. 14-18, however, is the exact opposite. The Leona and Rel nerfs pretty much affected everybody, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, cumulatively, we have here Viking Esport, Mad Lion, Koi, Fear X, and KT all come out at 0. And then it just slowly gets worse from there to the bottom. So next tier, T1, 100 Thieves, D plus Team Liquid, -1. G2, LNG, Rainbow 7, Pain Gaming, Fnatic, -2. Weibo, SoftBank Hawks Gaming, Gam Esports, Gen G, HLE, FlyQuest, Vivo Keyed Stars, -3. And then -4, PSG Top Esports, and -5, BLG. So actually 14-17 is a patch that really hurt BLG, at least as far as what champions they were using this summer. And you look at a team like KT, T1, they benefit. D+, the LCK kind of benefits more than the LPL when it comes to this patch. So yeah, an interesting video, interesting way to look at it. I did enjoy I didn't enjoy writing it all out, but I think it gives a better idea of who plays what when you can actually put it on a board and have people look at it. So thank you for watching. If you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.